We have an amendment at the desk, Madam Speaker.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment in the nature of a substitute number 1, printed in House Report number 110-79, offered by Ms. Kilpatrick of Michigan.
The gentlewoman from Michigan, Ms. Kilpatrick, a member opposed, will each control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman for 20 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield myself 2 minutes.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, this time we're very happy to present our Congressional Black Caucus budget for 2008. Our budget is balanced. It takes us to surplus in 5 years. It reduces the deficit, and it invests in America's families. We're happy today to present to you a budget. The full budget is $2.9 trillion. That would be $3 trillion if it were rounded off. The Ways and Means Committee that handles the entitlements will handle Medicare for over 44 million seniors' health insurance, Medicaid, over 45 million disabled, low-income seniors program, and our veterans programs. Our Appropriations Committee will handle $930 billion of those dollars in our 2008 discussions on this budget. I'm happy to present to you a balanced budget from the Congressional Black Caucus that takes care of our veterans, that invests in the war, that makes sure that our seniors are taken care of, and that our children in their S-CHIP program for children's health care is fully funded so that all children in America can have an adequate health care system. Madam Speaker, the Congressional Black Caucus budget is a good budget. I would urge our colleagues to accept it, to vote for the CBC budget, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Does the gentlewoman reserve the time?
I reserve the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Wisconsin
Madam
rise?
Speaker, I rise in opposition to the bill to claim time in opposition to the amendment.
The gentleman is recognized for 20 minutes.
Madam Speaker, this time I would like to address why we're here today. We are here to balance the budget. And what is very good about this debate we're having here today is we're talking about not if we should balance the budget, we're talking about how to balance the budget. And so for that point, we have come to a good part of this debate where I believe, based on the numbers I've seen, all of these amendments we're going to experience today and the base Democrat budget balances by 2012. That's a good start. So now we here in Congress are agreeing, let's balance the budget. That's good. The question then becomes, how do we balance the budget? This is where there are enormous differences between the two parties. The three budgets on the other side of the aisle, the progressive budget, the Congressional Black Caucus budget, and the base Democrat budget, all have one big thing in common. They raise taxes. They raise a lot of taxes, anywhere from $400 billion to $1 trillion just over the next 5 years. What kind of taxes are we talking about? Well, let's look at the tax relief that occurred. In 2003, if you take a look at what happened to our country in 2001 with 9/11, with the Enron scandals, with the dot-com bubble bursting, the fact that we went to war and we went into a recession, we lost a lot of jobs. We were losing over 100,000 jobs a month at that time. We went into a recession. 3 years of revenues declined. We had a big deficit. So while revenues went down because people lost jobs, we went into deficit and spending went up. Why? Because we had unemployment. We had programs to help people who lost their jobs. We had war costs. And so what ended up happening was we needed to get people back to work. We needed to get this economy growing again. So what did we do? At that time, we were in the majority. We decided we needed a package of reforms, of tax cuts, to get the economy growing again, to get people working again. So we cut taxes on families, cut taxes on small businesses, cut taxes on business investment. What happened? 7.6 million new jobs were created since those tax cuts in 2003. We went from growing our economy at an anemic 1.1% prior to the tax cuts to growing our economy at an average of 3.5%. We went to creating about 160,000 jobs per month since those tax cuts. What also happened? Revenues went up. Revenues went up for double digits the 2 years following. This year, so far, the revenues are up about 10%. So revenues came in. Why? because we actually cut taxes. We have lower tax rates, but we have higher revenues because people went back to work. People went to work, to jobs, and paid more taxes. What happened? The deficit went as high as $412 billion. Now it's as low as $176 billion. I would like to say that it's because we did a great job on controlling spending. No, that's not the case. The reason the deficit, for the most part, went down is because revenues went up, because the economy grew. People went back to work, paid their taxes. And so, my friends, Madam Chairman, we don't have a revenue problem in Washington. Revenues are coming in fast. We have a spending problem in Washington. And that's the difference between our philosophies, our budgets. We believe that the money people make really is their money, not the government's money. We believe that when someone starts a business, when someone goes to work, that is the fruit of their own labor, and they ought to keep more of their hard-earned money. Because at the end of the day, if government takes more money out of a person's paycheck, you're taking more freedom out of their lives. If you take more money out of a family budget, you're taking more freedom away from that family. That's the difference. We believe that people ought to keep more of what they earn. We believe that small businesses, which are the engine of economic growth in this society, which create all these jobs, shouldn't be taxed at tax rates higher than large corporations. But that's what will happen if any of these three budgets pass. If the progressive budget, the Black Caucus budget, or the Democrat budget passes. We believe that we need to focus on spending and not on raising taxes. Because more important than that, I want to show you one chart. Madam Chair, if you take a look at these revenue lines, even if we take the low line, the blue line, that's the line of revenues coming in if we don't raise taxes. That's the line the Republicans are using for our budget. And we balance our budget by controlling spending instead of raising taxes. And we control spending to the point where we stop the rate on the Social Security Trust Fund and we pay down $100 billion in debt in the 5th year alone. The red line, not much higher, but the red line says, let's raise taxes by $400 billion. That's the smallest of the tax increases we're looking at of these budgets today. That still shows that it's a lot lower than the green line, the spending line. Spending is the problem. And if we do nothing to control spending, by the time my children are my age, the federal government will double in size simply by growing on the current path that it is on. This has to be dealt with, Madam Chairman. This has to be dealt with, and no matter how much you propose to raise taxes, no matter how much you want to raise taxes on small businesses, take away the per-child tax credit, bring back the marriage penalty, reinstate the death tax, raise taxes on businesses and capital investment and seniors and dividends and capital gains. No matter how much you want to raise taxes here, if you pass one of these other three budgets, we still won't have enough to meet the spending line, the spending appetite, the spending trajectory of this federal government. That has to be dealt with. Why does that have to be dealt with? Because we do not want to pass onto our children and our grandchildren a mountain of debt. The debt has increased. Sadly, over the last 8 years, it went up $3 trillion. I think you're going to hear that from other people. I've got news for you, Madam Chairman. Just Social Security alone, by doing nothing to address this program over the next 5 years, that debt will go up by $3 trillion. Medicare, if we don't address Medicare's growth, if we don't reform and maintain and save Medicare, the debt to just Medicare will go up almost $20 trillion over the next 5 years by doing nothing. So, Madam Chairman, let's not raise taxes. Let's work on spending, and let's reform these programs. I want to reserve the balance of my time, but I want to say one thing before I do, and that is these three programs, which we commonly refer to as our entitlements, are the most important domestic programs in the federal government. Medicare helps people who are in older age get health care. Medicaid helps people who are low income get health care. Really, really important missions, Madam Chairman. And Social Security helps provide people with retirement security. These programs are too important to let slip into bankruptcy. These programs are too important to go for 5 more years without any reforms designed to extend their solvency and make them work better and be more